Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Greenfeder. I chair the Caribbean Council at the Urban Land Institute in Southeast Florida. And I'm here with Alberto Bonilla, the Director of Development at Garnier, who's also one of our members at ULI. Alberto, saludos, hello.
How are you guys? Nice to meet you. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. So where are you actually located right now?
I'm in San Jose, Costa Rica. That's where our headquarters is for our real estate division. We do develop all throughout Costa Rica, but our headquarters is in San Jose.
Okay, great. And if you could just tell us a little bit about what you guys do at Garnier and Garnier.
Sure. Garnier is we're a real estate developer. We are diversified in that we've got divisions. We've got an industrial commercial division. We have a residential division, and we've got a hospitality hotel division, mostly focused on the tourism sector. The company's got about 25 years of experience developing in Costa Rica. We're looking now to expand outside of the Costa Rican borders, but our strategy over the years has been to diversify within Costa Rica and have different different segments within real estate in Costa Rica. As you can expect, and obviously we've seen it all around the world, the hospitality industry isn't doing well right now. But some of our diversification is paying off in industrial manufacturing and office, which we can go into in a little more later on.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, I guess before we start, how are things in Costa Rica? What's it like on the ground right now?
Good. We are in almost complete lockdown. The borders have been closed, both air, land, and maritime borders have all been closed since around the 15th of March. It might have been around the 20th, and that just got extended until the 15th of May. So we don't have any commercial air travel. That obviously during the high season, which is right now for us, the tourism industry, which Costa Rica thrives on and is a big important component of our economy, is hurting right now a lot. And most people are working from home. There has been some layoffs. Surprisingly enough, and one of the sectors that is still working is construction. So there hasn't been any shutdown, any official or formal shutdowns in construction. We have a couple of projects that are continuing, probably slowed down a little bit, mostly due to materials coming into the country. But for the most part, construction continues. We have our entire office is working from home, as is most anybody who works from an office is working from home. Manufacturing continues. Retail is pretty much closed down completely. We've had mandatory quarantine at night, and there is restrictions on vehicular traffic during the week, depending on your license plate number. So certain days, certain license plates can't go on. And for the most part, the Ministry of Health is actually doing a really good job. We've had 660 cases, I think, right now, from a country that's got 5 million people. And the important thing is as of yesterday, of those 660 cases, 125 have recuperated already. So we're looking at about 20% recuperation. So the Ministry of Health's done a very good job at trying to control that. They've been prepping for a lot of weeks. They've got ICUs ready to go. So we haven't really seen any massive emergency issues on that end. I think now the main issue the government really has to focus on is expanding economy. When are we going to open up again? Having some temporary opening in certain sectors. But I think really that's more of the important role right now.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that at least on the construction side, you guys are continuing to plug away. And I imagine it must be challenging as a company to have workers in the field and then the office at home.
Our engineering staff, most of them have been going to inspections on site. They're taking care of themselves, the precautions they need to take care of. Our Costa Rican Chamber of Construction also, which we are members of, has done a really good job at recommending to general contractors what are the procedures that need to be done, how to take care of all of the employees on site. No agglomerations at lunchtime. They're having people have lunch at different intervals during the day. Not having too many people when it's internal improvements, not having too many people working at the same time. So there's been a big push to try and not close down the construction world in Costa Rica. And I think the Chamber has done a really good job at setting up mitigating measures to do that.
Oh, well, that's exciting to hear and really important. I'm sure our members who are interested in Costa Rica and active in the region would like to hear that. The tourism industry, as you mentioned, is a big part of your company's, of Garnier's portfolio and your activity. I mean, what's that looking like? And are you starting to see any potential opening in the tourism sector?
Yeah, so I mean, as you can imagine, when you start looking at projections and you've got zero revenue coming in on the operating side, it gets pretty complicated. Tourism is 99% of what fills up hotels in Costa Rica. The domestic national travel, that you do see a little bit of that, but mostly during the off season, which is between August, September, October. So yeah, really, our portfolio right now, we only have one operating hotels. We have three hotels that are in pipeline and construction right now. We've developed other hotels in the past that we've sold to REITs and to other groups. But in our portfolio right now, we have one operating hotel in Guanacaste, which we closed as of the 30th of March this year. And we don't expect to reopen at least until October, maybe October, November. Now, we probably could open, and most realistically, things will start moving around July. But the issue is, I don't think it's the smartest thing to open during the low season and coming into a low season where it probably would be more expensive to keep the operation running. So, what we're doing is we're working on some renovation work that had to be done on the hotel and just trying to keep most of our employees who we can on staff, trying to keep as many people as we can, at least working with the communities to try to be able to bring them support, bring them food, bring them whatever they need. Just because, I mean, this is really, in some of these communities, the only source of work in these areas of Guanacaste.
Yeah, I imagine. What's the GDP, the tourism-based GDP in Costa Rica?
That's a very good question. I'll have to get that number back to you. But, what we do know is that just construction in general, construction accounts for about 4 to 5% of total GDP within Costa Rica. That was in 2019. I'd have to get back to you on what the hotel industry specifically is.
Because you've been doing an amazing job. I mean, I've been watching Costa Rica, tourism offering get better every year, and the whole environmental movement in Costa Rica has been exceptional. I mean, it seems like really Costa Rica has figured out a great market niche and been able to cater to people that love the environment.
Yeah, I mean, after some free trade zone manufacturing, as well as life science components and medical components, that's right up there with tourism in Costa Rica. And those are really the top two attractions that bringing in external investment into the country.
And so, speaking about manufacturing, and I mean, how do you see the world 2.0 kind of affecting Costa Rica? And do you see any changes in Costa Rica's offering?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be a little too early to tell. I've been sitting on a whole bunch of webinars. I've been trying to listen, understand, see what's happening in Asia and the Asian markets. I think time will tell. What I do seem to see, and it's actually starting to happen, is that a lot of the multinational companies that are already installed in Costa Rica are looking to grow their operations on this side of the world. So, we have some operations that we've been working with some companies that we're thinking about smaller expansions over the next 6 months. They've come to us over the last 4 to 6 weeks and said, no, hey, we're probably going to be looking at larger expansions, specifically in the manufacturing of life sciences and medical components and having that inventory stocked on this side of the world. I think it's also really important for Costa Rica to show the world how the country hasn't shut down during this pandemic. We've done a really good job at limiting how many people are getting sick, but at the same time also having people working from home, having people working at manufacturing plants, and all that has to go, all that gets entailed into how you have people come into the parks, how you have people go into the plants. But additionally, I think a lot of our multinational office tenants are very impressed and telling us that one of the things that's really worked well for them is that in some cases they've got almost up to 100% of their workforce working from home, and they've only seen about a 10 to 15% reduction in the efficiency and the output of what they're getting from their employees. And this could only be done because Costa Rica has infrastructure of internet, high-speed internet all over the general San Jose, Alajuela, Heredia area. Telecommunications is working. So you've got all of these employees that work in these different residential hubs, and they're still being able to communicate and connect with their central offices, regardless of having to work from home.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a big surprise to me when I went down to visit Costa Rica. I was in Guanacaste earlier this year, and internet is exceptional. All your telecommunications are first world. It's a pleasure
we just have to work
be
on
down
our
there.
roads, but at least our telecommunications works well.
Well, one step at a time, and I always think it's enjoyable to go down to places and have it be a little different. And we were down in Costa Rica looking at the hospitality sector, and specifically in the Guanacaste area, and I was impressed. It kind of seemed like there was a resurgence going on in that area specifically. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think Guanacaste? Mm-hmm.
There is, and look, really, there is a need. Right now, there is a high demand to get more hotel rooms, or I should prephrase that. Prior to the pandemic, prior to COVID-19, we were seeing a high demand to get more hotel rooms in the Guanacaste area. There was a high demand. We've had double-digit growth rate of air travel coming into the Guanacaste Liberia airport year on year. We've seen, I think now, over 25 different airlines that fly direct into Liberia airport. And so we were seeing a resurgence. We were seeing this resurgence really come strong over the last 2 or 3 years. As I mentioned, we're working on 3 different projects. One of them that was going to break ground June, July of this year. We've now had to postpone that for a while. But there is, and I think one of the important things about Costa Rica, as you mentioned, we have a brand identity, we have a country identity. Tourism will come back eventually. When, I think, is anybody's guess, but it will come back eventually. And again, Costa Rica needs 1.5 million to 2 million tourists a year to basically thrive. And if you look at what that is in terms of market share around the world, it's nothing. It's a pin drop. So I think we will be able to come back to that, hopefully quicker rather than later. And I think the hotel projects will start moving forward again. It's just a matter of time right now. I think one of the main issues we're having is just financial institutions aren't really sure how to underwrite a new hotel project. So any hotel project that was going to get started in the next 6 to 12 months and was working on their underwriting and their financing for construction financing, I think one of the main issues is just financial institutions right now are kind of putting everything on hold and saying, hey, we don't know how to eat this yet. So let's see what happens. And I think that we'll get a better understanding in the next 4 to 6 weeks on where we're at with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm actually think that we should probably have a ULI conversation about that topic. I think that would interest a lot of our members. Is there anything else from the Urban Land Institute that perhaps that we can do that would interest you, Alberto, in Costa Rica from a subject matter or information?
Definitely. Costa Rica, you always talk about tourism, you talk about the hospitality industry, but really, right now what we're very focused on, just because it's the segment that we see a little more movement on, is office, is manufacturing. I didn't really get into residential, but that's kind of not even on the high or on the low, but it's just kind of moving. But in terms of office, we're doing a lot of research. We're talking with a lot of our partners in the United States, a lot of our tenants that are multinational AAA firms. What are they doing in terms of getting ready to get the workforce back into a work environment? And what that's going to mean in terms of design in the future for internal office space. On one side, I think tenants are going to probably space out their internal improvements a lot more and get lower densities. But on the flip side, they'll probably be a little more lenient and flexible on work from home strategies. So, what that means in terms of a net effect of how many meters or square feet will be leasable over the foreseeable future, I think we'll still see. But that's definitely something that we're focused on and be interested in working with ULI on.
Yeah, that concept of wellness, I think, is today and in the very near future just going to run through all product classes. And obviously trying to figure out how we protect our clients, our stakeholders, our employees will really rise to the front of a lot people's top of mind interests, and we're seeing going back to the hospitality. I mean, we're asking ourselves a lot of tough questions today. I mean, can we continue to provide the same services that we provided for decades? Food buffets, massage services, intimate bar scenes. It's really all being put into question. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think life will continue as it always has been, or do you think there's going to be some variations in the way you do hospitality?
No, there will definitely be variations, and again, I think Costa Rica does a good job on the sustainability effort, and I think that'll be something on that front that we will be working on as well. Look, most of the major hotels in the Guanacaste area, even in San Jose, are all chain hotels. There'll be all kinds of new standards. I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of new health and cleansing standards, cleansing certificates that landlords will need to get, that owners will need to get for their hotels as well. It's just a matter of time to figure this out. I don't see us going back to the old business as usual. There will definitely be a new normal. But at the same time, I think that's a good thing. I think this is over the last 4 to 6 weeks that everybody, on a personal note, that everybody's been back in their homes. We've all kind of reassessed what's important in life. We've all reassessed a little bit. My kids go to school now in front of an iPad in our house. My wife is working from home. I'm working from home. We see each other at lunch. At 5:30, we go out for a walk in our community. And then maybe we come back, we do a little more work. I think all of this is going to change the new normal. And you'll see that in hospitality as well. You'll see that in what is going to be offered as entertainment, as new amenities. I think, as you said, wellness will become a lot more important, not just on the cleansing aspect, but just in general on what it is that we want to do in terms of entertainment, what it is we want to do in terms of leisure. We've all spent 4 to 6 weeks without going to restaurants anymore. What is that going to mean? When restaurants come back, is it going to mean that hospitality is going to have to change into more of a in-room dining, in-apartment dining? A lot of these questions will come up, and I think time will see.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting, and I agree with you. It's we can be better. We can make World 2.0 a better place to live and to work and to play, and Costa Rica has always taken a strong position on sustainability and resiliency and its relationship with the environment. And I think from a positioning perspective, I think that's only going to continue. It seems like the relationship between this pandemic and us taking care of our planet, they seem to be tied together in one way or another. And it'd be interesting to see if there's some advances on the sustainability side as well as as the health side.
Yeah, I will mention, one thing that I have been a little disappointed on, and this is just because of the way things are running. The world itself in Costa Rica, the forefront, has done a really good job over the years of eliminating plastic straws, eliminating plastic from supermarkets. Everybody bringing in their own bags and filling up their own groceries and et cetera. And over the last 4 to 6 weeks, I've seen that change a bit now because, grocery stores aren't letting you go in with your own bags because it's a health risk. The plastic is coming back a bit. So, that's going to be a challenge that everybody's going to have to work on and try to figure out how we can get around that as well. And that's something that definitely Costa Rica will be at the forefront. But it's also a challenge when you're trying to balance sustainability with everybody staying safe.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned that. We've been seeing, on a side note, we've been seeing just a plethora of animals, both aquatic and birds, that we've not seen here. I'm in Miami in Brickell City Center, and I've seen more manatees in the last week than I have in the last 3 years. So
it goes to show you that the world will go back. Humans don't have to be the only important part of planet Earth. So so that has been interesting. Yeah, and I think just changing the subject a little bit, but going into residential. Mm-hmm. We will also see a lot of changes in residential, and we will see a lot of changes in what is common areas within a residential unit. Common areas will have to be a lot more focused on work from home. Furniture manufacturers, I think, are going to come up with all kinds of crazy ideas on how to turn a dining room table into a work desk, or a kitchen table, a kitchen island into something that you can move up and down, sort of like the vertical mobility we've seen on on office furniture will convert a little bit into the homes. You know, I mean, over the last couple of weeks, we've sent home a whole bunch of our employees chairs from our office just because we wanted to make sure that everybody had a comfortable chair to work with. You know, and that's gonna in terms of the development world and how we design. That'll be a very interesting initiative to see what happens over the middle to long run on what you offer now. Do you offer a den, or do you offer a room that's got a lot more flexibility to turn into an office work from home space?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see changes in the way we live. From a real estate perspective, I'm asking different locations. I've been on the phone and with Turks and Caicos and the Cayman Islands, and we've had conversations recently with Mexico to find out a little bit about transactions and if any of them are happening. And I've actually been surprised to see that the luxury market in the residential space has seen quite a pickup in the last couple of weeks of people who want to buy a place where they can escape, potentially future pandemics. Have you seen any kind of activity in Costa Rica?
Yeah, we had that as well, middle of March, and specifically in Guanacaste with some of the more luxury, higher end residential units. A lot was being delivered and on sale. Really, the problem we had was that, and that's exactly what you mentioned, people were saying, hey, let me buy this, let me close right now, I want to move to it right now and spend my quarantine in Costa Rica. As soon as the borders closed, that really brought that down right now. I think long-term people will think of Costa Rica as a safe haven to go to. Unfortunately, right now, that has kind of frustrated those transactions on the luxury residential. What we have seen, though, is transactions in manufacturing, office leases are still being signed. Some multinational companies have put things on hold just because, as a worldwide decision, boards have decided to put things on hold. But we have had some office lease transactions that were already in place prior to the pandemic. Basically, they have been executed over the last couple of weeks. Okay. And again, I think retail and hotel and hospitality, really, that's what's really getting affected right now. Hospitality, as we've mentioned, and just retail, we have had some forced closures. So, for example, gyms, movie theaters, anything that has anywhere where more than 50 people can unite in the same place have been closed forcefully by the Ministry of Health. And I think smartly, but so anybody who was your tenant in a retail outlet that is focused on that sort of retail basically has zero income and zero revenue streams besides what they're trying to do on virtual classes and virtual revenue. But I think those are really the two sectors that are getting hit the hardest.
Well, from a North American perspective, we're counting on the federal government to provide really a plethora of programs for small businesses and individuals, and unemployment today is at record numbers. I think it's over 20 million U.S. citizens are under unemployment. How does a country like Costa Rica that doesn't have those same resources deal with a situation like this?
Yeah, it's hard. Costa Rica definitely. We're a third world developing country. We're coming from 2-3 years of having a fiscal deficit that's already been a major issue for the country. We were having a fiscal crisis over the last couple of years. The government was just starting to kind of push out of that. And so it's hard. It is hard. What the government has done is they've become a lot more flexible on labor laws and the work labor laws. So basically, business owners can now suspend employees or bring their payroll down to 50%. That's something that normally, on normal basis in Costa Rica, is not allowed with the existing labor laws. That's allowed a lot of employers to be able to minimize without having to fire, without having to lay off people. So that on that end has given a little more flexibility to business owners. There is a small subsidy also. There's a subsidy program that's been put into place. So if you've been laid off or if you've been temporarily suspended or furloughed, there is a government-sponsored program that will give you a monthly stipend. You apply for that monthly stipend, and I think this Monday I read that the first 35,000 stipends were paid out for this month. So that's moving as well. I will mention that banks, both the private banks and the public banks in Costa Rica, have been very helpful in this situation. So, for example, I'd say 90% of all the banks as of last month basically took out automatically anybody who had a mortgage on their bank. They suspended payments on mortgages for the next 2 or 3 months. So that was just automatic to everybody without, you didn't have to apply for it. It was just automatically across the board. If they then went out and talked to their customers, hey, if you can make your payment, that'll help for other people. But they, so that measure also has helped a lot. So I think it's really more, private business owners, they have to try to do this on their own. The government can help in ways they can, but it's going to be a lot harder to get funds into people's hands that would be coming directly from the government.
Well, I know that I could speak with you for hours, and I don't want to take too much of your time.
No, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
I hope that we can come back together maybe on a ULI panel. I know you've got a lot to share across all different sectors in the real estate field, and really wish you and your firm and Costa Rica the best of luck in recovering, and we'll all be there, and hopefully this can be over sooner than later.
Thank you. You too. Stay safe. A pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.